There's a lonely place up in the Owens Valley that's been almost forgotten by time. Back in the late 1800s, a railroad ran through here. It was built mostly to carry ore from the mines to the mills. It was what was known as narrow gauge. The rails were only 3 feet apart. And because of that, the folks hereabouts called her the Slim Princess. Back in the days before diesel, when steam engines ruled rails, old number 9 hauled her share of gold and silver, even some copper and talc, soda, pumice, and soapstone. And when this fertile valley still had water, she hauled the rich products of orchards and fields, and sheep and cattle. Then the mines played out. The Depression hit, and Los Angeles took the water from the Owens Valley in the name of progress. There would hardly be a trace of the Slim Princess left anymore if the historically minded people of Bishop and the little town of Laws hadn't turned the old Laws station into a museum. They've worked long and hard to furnish the original station agent's house with period antiques and relics. Located 4.5 miles northeast of Bishop, the Laws Railroad Museum and Historical Site is open the year round, except when the snow's too deep, and there's no admission charge.
I feel like those 2 old dudes waiting on the railroad platform for that load of blue jeans to come in. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Railroad Museum at Laws up near Bishop.
The last 3 of the 13 miles off the main highway, 395, are nothing but rough dirt road. But with a good vehicle and decent weather, persistence pays off. You've come to the old ghost town of Bodie. As a California historic park, you can walk through what was once one of the toughest, wickedest, worst weather mining towns along the entire Comstock lode. In its heyday, around 1879, Bodie had a population of over 10,000. But they lost an average of about 1 poor soul a day through killings. There were robberies, stage holdups, and street fights outside the 65 saloons. Greed, lust, and passion ran rampant in a town where 1 small block of ground yielded $90,000 in gold in 90 days. Miners' wages were spent in gin mills and saloons and lavished on the ladies of Maiden Lane and Virgin Alley. The weather didn't help, with winter temperatures of 30 and 40 degrees below zero and 100-mile-an-hour winds that stacked up snow 20 feet deep. But the real demise of Bodie came when the mines played out, and after 2 fires destroyed almost all the buildings. What's left today is only about 5% of the original. In some cases, it looks like the storekeepers just walked out the door and left everything on the shelves. You see it just as it was. It's being kept in a state of arrested decay.
I imagine Mama was pretty proud when these lace curtains came from the mail-order catalog. Now this whole town is being preserved as part of California's past history. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the ghost town of Bodie.
If you like gorgeous scenery with your fishing, boy, have I got the place for you. California Outdoors photographer Art Farian makes it look like a picture postcard. This is Convict Lake, 30 miles north of Bishop, just 2 miles off Highway 395 in the eastern Sierra. You can rent a boat here and troll the surface of this gem of a lake, or fish from the shore with your favorite tackle and bait to bring in the big ones. Convict Lake is home for browns, natives, and rainbow mountain trout. Are they gonna taste good later? Right out of the pan. But why the peculiar name, Convict Lake? Well, way back in 1871, some convicts escaped from the penitentiary in Carson City and holed up here. They were caught and some say hung from this very tree, but that part of it's just local legend. If you want a closer look at the majestic Sierra, a pack station will outfit you for several weeks, a day, a half day, or just a 1-hour ride. The backcountry scenery is magnificent. Convict Lake Resort features 20 cabins with Spartan furnishings to suit the rustic fisherman's taste. All have full kitchens. 1- and 2-bedroom cabins range from about $30 to $70 per day. A country store fills grocery, sundry, and tackle needs. And there's a restaurant here that you'd never expect to find in this out-of-the-way setting. The gourmet menu is second to none in my book.
Well, the fish are all clean, being packed in ice, and I'm going to have this New York steak with green peppercorn sauce. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Convict Lake Resort.
So often on California Outdoors, I've told you how I've found some of the best goodies off the main roads. After 7 miles of paved but narrow mountain road from Mammoth Ski Resort, and then less than a half-mile walk on a good path, you come upon a scene that is one of only 4 or 5 in the world. They call it Devil's Postpile. I was lucky enough to run into Bill Summers, a seasonal employee of the U.S. Forestry Service who's from La Mesa. Bill tells me that geologists estimate almost 1 million years ago, volcanic lava flowed into this valley rim to rim and over 400 feet deep. In cooling, the lava shrank and cracked into long vertical columns about 2 feet in diameter, hexagonal in shape. Later, during the Ice Age, glaciers moved through the valley, scraping and exposing the columns and leaving chunks at the bottom like strewn cordwood. These photographs show that on top, the glaciers polished the ends to look almost like a hexagonal tile floor. In 1910, they were going to blast these posts into the nearby middle fork of the San Joaquin River to dam it for hydroelectric power, but fortunately, it was saved for us to see and enjoy. Devil's Postpile National Monument is administered by the National Park Service and is closed in winter except to cross-country skiers.
The sands of time have worn away at these vertical pillars for eons and eons, but my guess is that they'll still be here when you come up to visit. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Devil's Postpile.
The Sierra Nevada mountains of California offer unlimited recreational adventures, from camping and fishing to hiking, mule packing, skiing, and just about everything. But lately, there's been a lot of talk about the central area of the Sierra becoming the next Mount St. Helens. Could the next volcano erupt here? Well, they certainly have in the past. Highway 395 cuts through fields of lava cinders. You can see the direction of flow of long-ago eruptions from the highway. An early-day writer referred to the curved columns of Devil's Postpile near Mammoth as molten lava that flowed over precipice and hardened in midair. That's a little far-fetched, but aerial photographs do show that there are many definite volcano craters in this area. Nearby Hot Creek breathes scalding water and steam, testifying that there are hot rocks down there somewhere, but that's been happening for decades, maybe even centuries. What do investors in Mammoth Ski Resort know that we don't know? Well over $100 million have been invested here already. A volcano would certainly wipe that out. Another $8 million investment is just being completed on 2 more spectacular ski lifts that will go clear to the top of this old volcano, Mammoth Mountain. Obviously, the layman is not counting on another Mount St. Helens anytime soon. Next week, we'll get the view of a geology expert. This is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Mammoth Ski Resort in the Sierra. This is Mammoth Mountain on the eastern slopes of the Sierra Nevada north of Bishop. If the snow is good on a day like today, Thanksgiving, or Christmas weekend, there will be 17,000 skiers on these slopes. When these pictures were taken for California Outdoors, an $8 million expansion was putting 2 new lifts up to the very top of Mammoth. The talk of a volcano erupting in this area certainly hasn't seemed to keep people away. Could this be the next Mount St. Helens? What about that bulge in the earth that has been noticed just a few miles from here? I asked a man whose expertise is geology.
Well, the bulge isn't very high. It's only about a 1.5 feet high. It extends 15 miles, a little bit to the south of us here, and a further 15 miles to the north of us. What it really is sort of a bubble that's appearing over where we're standing. We're standing somewhere right on the center of it, and the bubble is very shallow, but very large. About 30 miles in diameter, and again, this 15, 16 inches high.
Put it in layman's language for me. How would you?
It would be like, sort of like the rise you would get if you stuck a toothpick under a mattress.
Although Al Lydecker minimized the danger of the bulge, these steaming springs nearby do indicate volcanic activity, the kind that preceded Mount St. Helens.
The experts and the laymen seem to agree, yes, there will be volcanic activity in the Sierra, but as to the time and place, Well, it reminds me of one of the popular songs back when I was a disc jockey. But who knows where or when? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Hot Creek in the Mammoth area.
The next time you're headed home from Vegas, take an extra hour or two, stop off in Victorville, spend $2 of your winnings, and visit the Roy Rogers and Dale Evans Museum. Inside is the original Trigger mounted in his famous reared back pose. You'll also see a photographic record of how young Leonard Sly left Ohio in the early 1930s, came to California and sang with the Sons of the Pioneers. This brought movie roles, and as every kid who ever paid a dime for a double feature Saturday matinee knows, the rest is history. Roy Rogers became a cowboy star with all the trappings that go with that lofty position. Look at this 1963 Pontiac, built especially for Roy. By then, TV had replaced the movie double features, and Roy and Dale Evans made over 100 TV shows with new characters like their dog Bullet and Nellie Bell, Pat Brady's trusty old Jeep. Roy is an admitted pack rat. He never threw anything away, and most of it is here in case after case that lines long aisles. Roy and Dale's private secretary, Francie Williams, says, who else would still have the old Dodge truck that brought the family to California to pick fruit? This Fort Apache-like museum covers over a half acre, and it's filled with stuff that graphically shows what took a young man from an Ohio farm to become star-spangled Roy Rogers. You can see why the cowboy room would be one of Roy Rogers' favorites, with mementos from a lot of his old cowboy pals like Buck Jones' saddle, Tom Mix's hat, and a portrait of his sidekick for so many years, Gabby Hayes. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Roy Rogers Dale Evans Museum in Victorville. It's hard to believe that this desert area east of Barstow, where so many old prospectors labored in temperatures well over 100 degrees, once was a lake the size of Tahoe. Today's prospectors are more likely to be archaeologists. Since 1964, these excavations have revealed the earliest evidence of man in the New World. Some say as long as 200,000 years ago, this fellow, early man, long before the Indians, used this site as a manufacturing place for his stone tools. A sort of Stone Age Detroit, if you will. Flint-like chalcedony and jasper wash down from the Calico Mountains west of here, and specimens have been found in clusters of 10 to 500 pieces, leading scientists to believe that these instruments are truly products of human manufacture. These archaeologists, like early man site curator Fred Budinger Jr., have used chisels, punches, all sorts of hand tools, including dental picks and toothbrushes, to chip away carefully and slowly, 1/8 of an inch at a time. They've exposed almost 250,000 years of human history. Would you believe 96 man-years of work have taken the walls of pit number 2 to a depth of over 23 feet? Calico Early Man Site is open to the public Wednesday through Sunday. For more information, write or visit the Desert Tourist Information Center in Barstow.
Can you imagine early man pounding away at anything from chalcedony to petrified palm like I have here to make his tools? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Calico Early Man Site near Yermo, California.
Although the silver mining town of Calico was a rip-roaring place on a Saturday night in 1881, the sun began to set on Calico in 1896 when the price of silver dropped from $1.29 an ounce to less than half that. Since then, all the old prospectors have gone to that big grub stake in the sky. But today, you can still feel the glory and hear the echoes of a real desert mining town by walking down the paved streets of Calico. It was rebuilt by Walter Knott of Knott's Berry Farm and given to the people of San Bernardino County in 1966. It's now part of the county park system. Paintings of early-day desperados like Billy the Kid adorn the wall of the old saloon where a thirsty cowpoke can still quench a dusty thirst with a glass of sarsaparilla. Outside, there are all kinds of shops to strike a tourist's fancy. And the Calico and Odessa train will take you on a comprehensive tour of the surrounding area. Engineer Scotty will point out the Silver King mine that added $10 million to the total take of over $86 million from Calico's hundreds of hard rock shafts and 32 miles of tunnels. The Bottle House is no doubt a recent addition to the old ghost town, but fascinating for visitors and a photographer's delight. Calico Ghost Town is 10 miles north of Barstow, just off Interstate 15, and open every day but Christmas. It's free except for a $2 charge for parking.
Fire destroyed the old town of Calico, but Walter Knott came along and built it back up. I guess he had a pretty able volunteer fire department. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the ghost town of Calico. There are a lot of areas of Southern California that are just great for hiking, and backpacking is becoming more and more popular all the time. My professional guide is Gray Stannard from Adventure 16, who teaches classes on the subject. We could be in the High Sierra, but actually, the county let us use El Monte Park near Lakeside to show you a camper's Christmas gift catalog. Now, here are a few suggestions if you have an avid camper, hiker, backpacker, or cross-country skier on your list. Our shelter is an A-16 two-person tent that sells for $285. Gray's jacket is a warm shelled bunting at $82.75, and the A-16 pack is $220. Now, if you really want a warm jacket for cold, cold weather, look at my Gore-Tex and Down Parka, $320. And the top-of-the-line, fully down sleeping bag is $514. It'll keep you warm in temperatures 20 degrees below zero. But there are great gifts you don't have to spend that much for. Socks for hunters, fishermen, campers from $5.95 to $13. The cap is $10. And if you buy gloves, be sure you know the right size. Books are always great, and no size problem, from $4.95 to around $30 for the coffee table beauties. A few stocking stuffers might include a throwaway flashlight at $3 1/4, a great Technolight at $14.50, or a genuine Swiss Army knife with a magnifying glass up to $48. So you see, there's something for everybody on your camper's gift list this year that range from $3 1/4 to $500. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from El Monte Park at the base of El Capitan. Good night. If you have visitors in town over the holidays and you've done the zoo, SeaWorld, Balboa Park, consider taking them on the Tijuana Trolley. It's one of our major attractions now. Officially, it's the San Diego Trolley, and it's a good idea to have the correct change for the automatic ticket machines. A one-way ticket to the border is $1, 25 cents for the center city, anywhere on C Street or 12th Avenue. Although the trolley operates basically on the honor system, a ticket inspector is aboard about 45% of the cars. The fine is $20 if you don't have a ticket. The 16 miles of track pass through the industrial districts of San Diego, National City, and Chula Vista, but you also pass over quiet lagoons in the South Bay area that are home to a variety of wildlife. Powered by electricity, running on quiet, smooth tracks, the top speed is 50 miles an hour. The trip all the way to the border takes 40 minutes, including 18 stops. Remember, at all the trolley stops, the doors open only on one side for safety reasons, so you must be on the correct side depending on which direction you're going to go. In its first year of operation that ended last July, the trolley carried almost 5 million passengers. In early February, 10 more cars will be added to the 14 now operating. If you're aboard just for the ride, it's a good idea to avoid the commuter times, morning and evening hours. The trolley stops at the border. It does not go across, so if you want to go into Mexico, you have to walk over this pedestrian bridge. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors at the end of the trolley line from the U.S.-Mexico border. I never fail to see something new every time I go to Old Town State Park. Excavations are constantly going on, and last year was a banner year for visitors at shops, restaurants, and attractions. But sometimes we regulars overlook interesting places that warrant closer inspection. The Mormon Battalion Visitor Center on Juan Street, for instance, tells a story steeped in San Diego history. Dressed in the uniform of an Army major of the 1840s, Vaughn Wimmer is a guide at the center. Their director, Lynn Lowry, related to me how Brigham Young recruited 4 or 5 companies of Mormons to be commanded by non-Mormon regular Army officers during the war with Mexico in 1846. The Mormons had been driven out of the United States and were camping near what is now Council Bluffs, Iowa. From there began what has stood as the longest infantry march in history, 2,000 miles to San Diego in 6 months.
Hardships were unbelievable, the most difficult being the crossing of the Anza-Borrego Desert, but they pioneered the trail across that wasteland for settlers to follow. And here in a museum setting are artifacts and original mementos of that arduous journey. Each January 29th, these early pioneers are remembered again with a celebration in Old Town. One company of the Mormon Battalion remained behind to build Fort Stockton into a real fortress right here on this very spot. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Presidio Park. California outdoorsmen are always looking for a light, portable boat that's easy to transport to Mission Bay, inland lakes, or the Colorado River. If it has both sail and motor capabilities for fishing or recreation, all the better. But this sail fin goes even one step farther. On a centerboard that sticks about 2 feet below the hull is mounted a flexible fin made of space-age plastics. It's not only a terrific stabilizing factor, but rocking motion in the boat creates a forward movement with no sail or motor. Bernie Lewick of Carlsbad and his brother are the Western franchise holders for the sail fin that is manufactured in Canada. The hull is fiberglass and light enough for 2 people to handle. This 14-foot model sells for $1,400 with all the sail attachments. Bernie demonstrates that on the calm surface of Mission Bay with no wind, this boat can be propelled simply with a rocking motion to about 2 knots. A canoe would dump you right in the drink if you rocked it like this, but the sail fin is not only stable, it moves right along at a pretty good clip. With the sail up and wave action, its fins help move it even faster. Actually, the propulsion is not unlike that of the great California gray whales that migrate past our coast this time of year. Their flukes carry them thousands of miles, but when I tried it, I soon found that it's a great exercise for the legs. I won't have to go to the gym today, I'll tell you that. I believe with a little more practice and a little more sway, we could pull our water skier back there. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from a sail fin on Mission Bay. A girl working in the bank the other day said, "Gee, I wish I could go to the beach today." The weather is gorgeous, temperature just perfect, but the ocean water at 59 degrees is a little cold for swimming. But even the parking lots are practically empty now, unlike the 4th of July weekend. So how can we enjoy the beach and not go in the water? Let me count the ways. First of all, you can rent a bike and ride for miles along the seawall of Ocean Beach. Stop and enjoy the view. Just people watch. You'll be amazed at the antics the roller skaters perform. Or rent skates yourself and have at it. Plenty of smooth skating on both the ocean side and the bay side. Plenty of smooth sailing, too, in Mission Bay. The sun is warm, the breeze is just right. Several hotel facilities rent sailboats by the hour. No use wasting this beautiful sunshine indoors. Right next to Mission Bay is an 18-hole golf course. Bring your own clubs or rent equipment there. It's great short iron practice, and you can use a wood on 4 of the holes. All right, so you see, you don't have to go in the water to enjoy this marvelous water wonderland. Just get out near it. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Mission Bay Golf Course. You're flying with me along the beautiful, rugged coastline of Baja, California. Romantic tales of gold, pearls, and beautiful women first brought the Spanish conquistadors to this gulf between the peninsula and the mainland of Mexico. That's why it's called the Sea of Cortez. We're not flying at the altitude where the jets trace their contrails. We're flying at a good view altitude and a twin-engine beach of Air Cortez. They now fly out of San Diego once a day to 3 destinations on the Sea of Cortez from Jim's Air at Lindbergh Field. Our first stop is the historic town of Loreto. The oldest permanent settlement in California for almost 100 years, it was the capital. The very first in a long line of missions was started here by the Jesuits in 1697. It has undergone extensive restoration, especially after the Chubasco in 1959, when hurricane winds practically destroyed the whole town. That was the 9th time the brave villagers rebuilt from earthquakes, pirate raids, and hurricanes. Our Lady of Loreto has heard many prayers. Loreto has always been a fishing village, but development as a major tourist resort is underway that promises to take away some of the sleepiness. I'll tell you about that next week. Sports fishermen pay between $60 and $70 a day for 7-hour trips in these little boats, and the rich waters usually yield a catch that can be packed in ice and taken home. Dolphin, grouper, marlin in summer, roosterfish in the fall, and this time of year the prized yellowtail, among many others.
Some of the greatest sports fishing in the world out there in the Sea of Cortez. The pelicans know it, and these nets have caught their share too. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Loreto, Mexico.
Are you looking for an uncrowded stretch of beach in a tropical setting? A place for a short vacation, a second honeymoon, or a first honeymoon? The El Presidente Hotel in Loreto, Mexico is just such a place. It's on the Sea of Cortez, about halfway down the Baja California Peninsula. All the ingredients of a first-class resort are here. Besides the white sand beach, 2 swimming pools offer cool recreation. One of them has a swim-up bar where you can enjoy an exotic bit of refreshment. Although not one of the stops of a major airline, you can fly to Loreto on Air Cortez out of San Diego, or drive down on a 2-lane paved highway. Puerto Vallarta, Cancun, even Cabo San Lucas have all been discovered and are often crowded, but Loreto is still a dream hideaway. However, El Presidente is just the first of several hotels in a planned development by the Mexican Government Tourism Agency that includes private homes and a golf course. The exchange rate with the U.S. dollar is so good right now that a Mexican vacation is very reasonable. Rooms at El Presidente average $25 to $30 a day. A good dinner at the hotel restaurant is only $2 or $3. But I won't promise you it'll be quite like this one.
Our Mexican feast is just about to begin, and look what we have here, a sombrero full of fruits, melon, scallops, lobster, crab, shrimp cocktail, wine, turkey, and here's our pig de resistance. It looked like somebody spent a long time in a barbecue pit cooking up our main dish today. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from El Presidente Hotel in Loreto, Mexico.
About 12 miles north of Guymas on Mexico's mainland, adjacent to the Sea of Cortez, is the developing resort area Bahia San Carlos. The snowbirds come here in their trailers and motorhomes to enjoy the inexpensive living in the mild climate. You'll find license plates from almost every northern state in Canada. But here, at the foot of this rugged landmark, Tetacawi, is a luxurious resort that you can fly down to and stay very reasonably, the Hotel Solimar and Country Club. The recent devaluations of the peso have made vacations in Mexico one of the best travel bargains in the world right now. Although located a few miles from the bay, all the sports fishing, boating, beaches, and skin diving you could want is just a stone's throw away. If winter golfing is your thing, there's a championship 18-hole golf course that is challenging and uncrowded. When was the last time you teed off past a giant cactus like this? And although close only counts in horseshoes, the 18th green in front of that spectacular clubhouse is something else. The Hotel Solimar and Country Club offers quality rooms from $16 to $50 per day. They're roomy and tastefully decorated with Mexican colonial tile bathrooms featuring colorful basins. Full condominiums serve large families and groups up to 8 with kitchens, dining rooms, TV, and the works for about $10 per person per day. And these prices include your golf and tennis. Tennis lessons are available on one of 13 courts that are fully lighted for night play.
And so, after a little sightseeing, a little golf, a little tennis, this is the real way to relax at the end of a perfect day. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Solimar Country Club, Guymas, Mexico.
Flying in over the harbor of Guymas, Mexico on Air Cortez, California Outdoors photographer Art Farian is able to show you why this city of 100,000 or so is an important port on the mainland side of the Sea of Cortez. Shipping and fishing have been its main industries for centuries, and it's proud to be the home of the International Skin Diving Derby and the annual Game Fish Tournament. As in many a Mexican town, the church dominates central part of the city and its citizens' lives. Many generations have ambled under the trees of the park across the street and past the filigreed wrought iron gazebo and bandstand in the town square. Socia Hansen of the Tourist Information Service shows me another of the numerous historical landmarks. The European-style covered marketplace, Bazar del Mundo, offers visitors and townspeople alike many boats that have helped give Guymas its reputation as the shrimp capital of the world. These huge Guymas shrimp are what you'll see on the menus of the finest restaurants in San Diego at about $1 a piece. But at Enrique Matano's Del Mar restaurant in downtown Guymas, you get musicians and a platter full of these delicacies for a fraction of the U.S. price. So, when in Rome,
When you're in an area where the bounty of the sea is as plentiful as it is here, one should experience it. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Del Mar Restaurant in Guymas, Mexico.
Heritage Square in National City has been developed in just the last few years. It consists of 3 Victorian houses that have been moved onto this site from nearby locations, plus these old brick row houses that would fit in an eastern city better than here in California. But more about them later. The middle of the 3 Victorian houses was built by Frank Kimball, the man who pretty much developed National City shortly after the Civil War. Today, the Kimball House is a museum open to the public with Terry and Ken Jakes as on-site overseers. It's open Wednesday and Thursday evenings from 5 to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Admission is free. Although the furnishings are of the Victorian era, the only pieces that were originally used by the Kimballs are in the bedroom upstairs. The solid cherry headboard probably came around the horn on a ship because it was Frank Kimball who tried to get the railroad people to build their western terminus right here in National City. But alas, it never happened, and Mr. Kimball went broke. But not before he had built these brick row houses on this site for the railroad executives he had hoped would live here. The architecture was a copy of brick tenements in Philadelphia, but ironically, they were designed by the man who designed Folsom Prison. The gingerbread and rococo have been retained and even enhanced by other decorative features. These 10 units are now privately owned and very spruced up condominiums.
If you live back east, you might have grown up in a row house very much like this, although it's unusual to see it here in California. This is what you call American heritage, and it's right in our own backyard. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Brick Row in National City.
When I was 6 years old, my uncle presented me with this helmet that he wore in World War II in the South Pacific with the Navy Seabees.
And that combat helmet started this collection that Ron Lane officially calls the Museum of World Wars. It's located in Anaheim. It houses the largest private collection of military paraphernalia in North America. Uniforms of fighting men that go all the way back to the Revolutionary War, all but a few original. Posters, flags, and weapons from World War I, including Marshal Foch's Renault staff car, a one-of-a-kind vehicle. But by far the largest part of the collection, well over half, represents articles from World War II. This Sherman tank is the largest piece of equipment. It still runs and is still used in movies and parades. It will soon be moved with the rest of the museum to new quarters just 1 block south of Knott's Berry Farm. Here is the kind of uniform worn by Hitler's youth, and the Germans even issued a bathing suit to members of the Women's Army. Olive drab, of course. The most valuable piece, Hermann Göring's gold pistol given to him by Hitler, over $250,000. Ron Lane has dedicated this museum to fallen peoples of the world from all wars. He hopes that visitors will remember the reasons and consequences of past wars and that future wars can be prevented.
A man who has a collection of war materials that rivals even the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, and it all started with this helmet right here. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Museum of War.
We Americans are sometimes accused of hurrying through life, not allowing ourselves to stop and smell the roses, so to speak. But travelers who find themselves on the Palos Verdes Peninsula south of Los Angeles often discover a quiet spot where a brief pause helps refresh the soul. This is Wayfarer's Chapel. It was designed by the son of architect Frank Lloyd Wright and built shortly after World War II. Lloyd Wright used redwood beams vaulted skyward to resemble the huge ancient trees themselves with their interlacing branches. He used all glass walls and ceilings to provide the worshiper the feeling of being outside in God's natural chapel. Although this small church was commissioned by followers of Emanuel Swedenborg, whose roots went back to 18th century Swedish Lutheranism, it is really non-denominational Protestant. Many young people of all faiths hold their marriage ceremonies here, and many of them bring their children back for the sacrament of baptism. The baptismal font resembles a natural spring formed of native stone surrounded by growing vines and ferns. The 50-foot bell tower outside with its crowning cross is lighted at night and has been dubbed by sailors in the Catalina Channel as the Lord's Candle. Pause for a moment, Wayfarer, on life's journey. Let the beauty of holiness restore your soul. May the harmony of sky and water, leaf and rock, nourish the creation and growth of your inner being as you fare through this life and on into the life beyond. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Wayfarer's Chapel on the Palos Verdes Peninsula. If a person didn't know what was inside, it would be very easy to pass right by the Museum of American Treasures in this quiet residential neighborhood of National City. What is inside is the private collection of Hans Lindeman, who began his hobby shortly after coming here from Germany in 1936. Hans has a special penchant for pretty ladies, those carved in marble whose beauty lasts an eternity. His accumulation of a vast variety of articles, including this old music box, began when Hans started gathering purple glass bottles he'd find lying in the desert. The purple hue becomes apparent in any old glass that contains magnesium when it's been exposed to a lot of sunlight, hence the name desert glass. But let me tell you about this man, Hans Lindeman. After serving as a German soldier in World War I, he came out of the war with health problems. He nursed himself back to health over a period of many years through herbal medicine. Hans retired only a few years ago after working 23 years as the salad chef at Lubach's restaurant. For 82 of his 84 years, Hans Lindeman was a bachelor. Then 2 years ago, he married his wife Shirley, who not only helps him with the museum, but has even added her own vast doll collection to it. The museum is open 10 to 5 on Sundays and by appointments for groups. Donations only, please.
And what's the perfect place to end this little story? Well, what could be better than between Queen Victoria and the mysterious Egyptian priestess? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Hans Lindeman's Museum of American Treasures in National City.
Riding down the canyon just to watch the sun go down. A picture that no artist ever could paint.
If you want to ride down the canyon to see a picture prettier than any artist can paint, now is your chance. First, stop at the Visitor Center in Borrego Springs. They'll tell you the latest up-to-date areas where desert wildflowers can be seen. You wouldn't be disappointed by just staying in the Visitor Center's front yard. Many of the prettiest varieties of desert plants are cultivated right here. Add to that the nearby wildflowers growing after a wet winter, and you have to go no farther. But if you feel like wandering off the beaten path, a free map will show you how to take unpaved roads back up into nearby canyons that are relatively untouched. Here you'll see desert verbena, favored by the bees for that good desert honey. Sunflowers, primrose, monkey flowers, and a dozen other varieties, large and small. But give the cactus and ocotillo about one more week of this good warm sunshine, and they'll proudly be displaying their spring beauty with saturated color. But for ground cover flowers, better hurry. You really only have about one more week to see them at their best. Many artists have painted the desert, but nobody can really capture the beauty of these delicate little wildflowers created by the master painter. Happy Easter, everyone. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Anza Borrego Desert State Park.
In spring, a young colt's fancy turns to frolicking with its mama. Here under the warm sun of Rancho Bernardo, these Arabian horses seem to have nothing but fun on their mind. Meanwhile, other Arabians are getting prettied up for a special event this weekend. More on that later.
The Arabian is one of the most purebred of any horse. Many other breeds have roots from original strains of the Arabian, including the Appaloosa, the Morgan, even the Western Quarter Horse. Originally, the Arabian was bred for stamina by nomadic desert tribes. Today, they're recognized as one of the most beautiful of breeds, as you can see. Their style and grace are evident as you watch one of the trainers tone down the high spirits of this beautiful mare so she can be ridden. She happens to be the wife of this man, Mike Villasenor, who manages these Arabian horse training stables here in Rancho Bernardo. Watching with me also is Jane Prario, the secretary of the Desert Arabian Horse Association. It's this group that is presenting a horse show and dressage at the Del Mar Fairgrounds tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday. Besides the native costume class that you've seen ride in so many parades, the public is invited to see Western and English classes, jumpers, side saddle, and even driving classes with the buggies. It all benefits the Children's Dental Health Center in San Diego, and although the show goes on all day from 8 a.m., most of the performance classes are in the afternoon. So within the next few days, there's a lot of work to be done by both horses and riders. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Mike Villasenor's Arabian Horse Training Stables, Rancho Bernardo. It was exactly 200 years ago, in 1783, that Jacques and Joseph Montgolfier flew the first hot air balloon in France. The first living passengers were a rooster, a duck, and a sheep. Today, hot air ballooning is a hobby enjoyed by thousands all over the world. Gary Smith is one of the partners in A Beautiful Morning Balloon Company of Del Mar that lets the average citizen enjoy this romantic adventure. Once the air is heated by butane within the huge envelope, this colorful, delicate elephant begins to rise. Pilot Doug Grimes has control of up and down, but as to direction, we're at the mercy of the winds, and that's where the adventure comes in. Beautiful Morning Balloon Company flies every morning at 9 and every evening at 4:30, weather permitting, in the Del Mar and Rancho Santa Fe areas. For an hour's ride, the cost is $100 per person, and you enjoy a champagne brunch upon landing. Rarely reaching an altitude of more than 2,000 feet, today we're painting the clouds with sunshine. And after bringing her down right on target, the chase truck is prompt to deliver the traditional champagne for a toast to the crew. All right, Doug, that was a super flight.
Thank you.
Gary, thank you very much for the ride.
Thank you, Bob.
For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors, hot air ballooning near Del Mar. The best. The exhibits at the Aerospace Museum in Balboa Park are constantly changing and being upgraded. Believe me, for the $2.50 admission charge, it's one of the best buys in town. Executive Director Ed McKellar shows me the engine of a Japanese Zero, the plane built by Mitsubishi, the name you still hear today in the auto industry. Down in the basement of the museum, the rest of the Zero is being reconstructed. It was completely dismantled and each part sanded and treated before being put back together. A fellow who has been associated with the museum for several years, former Blue Angel Zeke Cormier, had chased a few of the Combat Quick Zeros as a Navy fighter pilot during World War II. In fact, 6 of the 10 planes Zeke shot down were Zeros. The real story here in the basement, though, is the men who bring this airplane back to museum quality so it can be displayed upstairs. These are all volunteers, not a paid worker in the lot. They represent a cross-section of San Diego aviation history themselves, some former aircraft workers at Ryan, Roar, or Convair, some retired Navy or Navy employees. These fellows are craftsmen, real craftsmen, proud of whatever small task they can do to participate in this project and dedicated to the overall job that they're doing. They all share in common that abiding love for machines that fly through the air. This is a model of the airplane that these fellows are putting back together, and before too long it'll be on display upstairs. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the basement of the Aerospace Museum in Balboa Park. The Sweetwater River runs through the center of Cuyamaca State Park, carrying the runoff from the winter rains and snow higher up. Green Valley Campground occupies just a small portion of the over 26,000 acres in this park.
Campers can spread out and not feel crowded with 81 family campsites. Although there are no hookups for water or electricity, there is piped drinking water nearby and buildings with restrooms and hot showers. Overnight camping is $6 per day, and reservations can be made through Ticketron. For day use of the park, there is a fee of $2, and there are 2 large picnic areas and over 100 miles of hiking trails. The unique attraction here is the waterfalls that tumble over giant granite boulders to form Green Valley Falls. An easy hiking trail will take you just a few hundred yards from your parked car to a wilderness world that is rare for being only 40 miles from a large metropolitan area like San Diego. It's a peaceful place to come and enjoy the solitude. Fishermen have found hungry trout here among the rocks and under the branches. And besides a picnic lunch, it's a good idea to bring along a camera, too. Believe me, you won't be sorry. For a hiker or a picnicker or a photographer or a fisherman, this is one of the most perfect spots in San Diego County. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Green Valley Falls. With snow still packed high on the surrounding mountain peaks, the brand new Hilton Hotel is perched comfortably on the shore of Lake Arrowhead, a mile up in the San Bernardino Mountains. Instead of building a city-fied glass and steel structure up here in this natural hideaway, Hilton wisely used a lot of wood. The lobby area reflects warmth and good taste in this magnificent mountain resort that caters to individuals or business groups with meeting rooms and conference facilities for up to 500. A night's lodging up here will get you the use of the limited membership health club and spa facilities, strictly first class. There's a hairstyling salon for both men and women. An outdoor swimming pool and jacuzzi let you relax and unwind among the tall pines and breathe in the beauty of this fresh air paradise. Then afterward, a different type of relaxation around the huge fireplace and the comfortable lounge area, before dinner in the gourmet restaurant. Rooms in this modern resort that just opened last November start at $65 a night. Here again, the decor is very tastefully done to blend with the woodsy atmosphere outside and yet stay in touch with the luxury that vacationers of the 80s want. And if you desire the top of the line, consider the Presidente Suite or one of the other 2-bedroom suites with living room and up to 2 fireplaces from $250 to $485 a night. No extra charge for the fantastic view. As you know, I've had an awful lot of sweet assignments on California Outdoors, but let me tell you, this is a luxury suite assignment. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Arrowhead Hilton Lodge in Lake Arrowhead. The best way to get an overall view of Lake Arrowhead, high up in the pure air of the San Bernardino Mountains, is by boat. On weekends and every day in summer, the old stern wheeler still takes excursions, but you can do as I did and rent a boat. Skim over the clear blue waters and see houses that were once owned by movie stars when this resort area was developed back in the 1930s. Shirley Temple owned a home here. In fact, this was the setting that depicted scenes of Switzerland for her in Heidi. Many stars used this as their own personal hideaway. It was a serene wilderness that not too many people knew about then. The old hotel and the village were built with an alpine motif. Today, it's all been rebuilt, holding close to the original forms of architecture. Visitors still see the one original building, the dance pavilion, but now shop in modern boutiques and stores with cutesy names like the Land of Oz for toys, a variety of restaurants and specialty shops. And what else would Bear in the Woods be except unfinished furniture? Personally, I liked ye old tin type, where you could be fitted in an old-timey costume and get your picture taken, perhaps reliving a fantasy of childhood. Now tell me the truth, doesn't that really look like the famous Civil War General Robert E. Lee Mills? Spittin' image. Lake Arrowhead Village, a dandy place for a one-day visit, and take the kids, they'll love it. And there's a definite alpine flavor, a mile high up here among all the pines. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Lake Arrowhead Village. Our own Mission Bay has to be one of the premier aquatic playgrounds in all the world. It accommodates almost every kind of water and boating activity. Recently, I was lucky enough to have Rusty Beatty take me out on the fastest production model sailboat in the world. This Super Cat has computerized designed twin hulls and sells for between $3,000 and $9,000. And these babies do fly. California Outdoors photographer Art Farian risks life and limb to show you Diane Melbo and Paul Hill doing some fancy trapezing on a Super Cat. Hey, that looks like fun, but will that slender cable hold a 200-pound plus whale in that tiny diaper-like harness? Well, we'll soon see. Oh man, this is fantastic. Look, Ma, I'm flying.
Skimming along at about 15 knots in a Super Cat with Rusty Beatty at the tiller. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting, California Outdoors, flying on Mission Bay.
On Wednesday afternoons in summer, San Diego Bay is filled with sales for what has become a slip-away-from-work-a-little-early tradition called the beer can race. Actually, it's not a race at all. It's more of a relaxing social gathering of people with a common interest. The California Outdoors crew is along on a sleek J-29 with Glenn Brandenburg, a sailing instructor at the San Diego Aquatic Center on Mission Bay. With assistant Greg Madison, who's already a competent sailor, this class of youngsters is in effect taking their final exam. I'm just along for the ride. But if you know someone who has a sailboat, everyone is welcome for this Wednesday afternoon regatta. Or if you just want a pretty picture from shore, Shelter Island offers an excellent seascape of a bay full of sails, all kinds of sails, even the little windsurfers out there among the biggies. Then as sunset nears, the variety of white Dacron triangles head back toward home. That's when the real relaxing begins. My main job of the day was passing the barbecue toward the stern for mounting off the aft deck. It's amazing how good a simple weenie roast can be after splashing waves and a lot of appetizing fresh salt air.
All right, just a little mustard on top of that, Wendy, please. Now we're talking. There's nothing like sitting out on the sailboat in San Diego Bay watching the sun go down. Now it's Mills time. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting, California Outdoors from San Diego Bay.
The Festival of Arts opens in Laguna Beach on July 9th and runs through August 28th, every day including Sundays. In 1933, that modest little art show gave birth to the Pageant of the Masters, exactly 50 years ago this summer. It's become a world-famous annual presentation based on the centuries-old idea called tableau vivant, or living pictures. We're following young Kimberly Saunders as she is made up to pose and recreating a great work of art. Kimberly is 11 years old, but she'll be portraying a woman in her 50s. Her headpiece and costume are painted so faithfully to reproduce every fold and shadow so as to blend exactly with the background. And now, the voice of Tony the Tiger and the announcer here for the past 10 years, Thurl Ravenscroft, fills us in on this picture.
It's a painting of one of those traditional things that happen in every home in America at a certain time of year. And it's so real that you can almost smell the mince pie and the turkey as it comes out of the oven in Doris Lee's Thanksgiving. Take a look.
What counts is that the recreations, large enough to fill a stage, must look convincing to the audience. And with masterful special lighting, they do. In the months to come, these seats will be packed with people here to see one of the sensational summer season hits, the Pageant of the Masters. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting, California Outdoors from Festival of Arts, Laguna Beach. While strolling on the beach one day, I came across a group of people preparing what looked like a parachute stretched out on the sand. David Osgundas has practiced parasailing in several parts of the world. He's an expert. Now his brother John is about to become airborne from the J Street Beach in Chula Vista. Here he goes. All right, John. The requirements for parasailing are a fast boat, about 400 feet of nylon tow line, and an $800 parachute. David has been trying to get a license to give parasail rides to individuals like they do from the beaches down in Mexico, but so far unsuccessfully. Hope he gets it soon. Now it's slow the boat and land John on a dime right on the beach. Hey, fellas, could a novice try that? One with quite a bit more ballast? David's friend Susan sees that the life jacket and harness are in place, and here we go.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, Art, this is something else. It really looks great up here. See Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, National City, Coronado Bridge.
David and John fly almost every weekend from the east side of San Diego Bay at J Street in Chula Vista, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Now the boat turns into the wind, slows down, and the towee is dropped like a feather almost exactly where he started.
All right, what a landing. For 10 News with Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors on the beach in South Bay.
Spring Valley, El Cajon, Santee Lakeside. It's getting a little warm in our inland areas these days, and if you want to cool off the kids and not have to drive all the way to the beach, try the Family Fun Center in La Mesa on Fletcher Parkway. They have the only water slide in San Diego County. In fact, they have 3 of them. Each one is between 350 and 400 feet long. And through the week, one kid can take 10 slides for $3.50. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's 8 slides for the same price. And the thing I love about it is there's no maximum age on kids. After that wears them down a little, they can still keep cool on the bumper boats.
Oh, there's a lot of fun out here, and it's a good way to stay cool. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills bumping his way in the water bugs at the Family Fun Center in La Mesa.
Here's something a little bit different. From the Broadway Pier on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evenings, the San Diego Harbor Excursion Company boards passengers for a sunset cocktail cruise. For $15 per person, there are tables of lavish hors d'oeuvres and unlimited cocktails during a 2-hour cruise of San Diego Bay. The boat pulls out at 7 p.m. with the city bathed in sunlight in the background. Captain Jack Amaral steers the former ferry boat that in the past carried so many military and civilians across the bay to North Island and back. It was then known as the Nickel Snatcher. Today, passengers sit at cloth-covered tables and enjoy the songs and music of Bee Gee at the electronic piano. And on Saturday nights, there's even a full dinner buffet along with the open bar. The price for the Saturday night dinner cruise is $25 per person. A sunset cruise is a nice way to meet new people. And there's just something about it that promotes togetherness. I don't have to tell you what glorious sights fill your eyes from a harbor view of this beautiful city of ours, especially on these warm summer evenings. What a relaxing time. A bay full of sailboats, a glass of wine, good company. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from aboard the Monterey on San Diego Harbor at sunset. Up among the tall pines near Lake Arrowhead, I'm getting ready for an off-road adventure that's 1 in a million. After a little instruction from Bud Elliott on the safe operation of the four-wheel all-terrain vehicles, we're off. Bud runs the Lake Arrowhead Fun Company in Blue Jay that features a 4-hour tour of backcountry roads and trails every weekend. Special arrangements for groups of 10 can be made through the week. The price is $40 per person, and let me tell you, these little four-wheelers are nothing but fun. In cooperation with the San Bernardino National Forest Service, Bud and his expert guides are able to use fire roads and trails that go to places you can't get to any other way. The guided tour will take you through Horsetail Canyon, past Old Grayback and Pilot Rock, the Pinnacles and Devil's Hole. And in spite of a little dust being kicked up to these fun buggies, the air is pure and clean up here above the 5,000-foot level. A short hike down a trail between huge boulders brings us to Deep Creek. Now this is an entirely different adventure. Bring your swimsuit and go for a cool, refreshing Deep Creek dip. Slippery rocks turn into a natural slide down into a pool of clear water formed by melting snow runoff from higher up. They say that age is just a state of mind, and take it from one who's been there, this fantastic adventure makes you feel like a kid again. Oh, yeah. After a hot, dusty ride on the trail buggies, this is just right. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Deep Creek in the San Bernardino National Forest. Summer camp is an annual event that is usually anticipated by parents every bit as much as the kids who participate. What a lot of parents don't know is that the campfire Camp Wolahi up near Lake Cuyamaca is open to both boys and girls. And they don't have to belong to the campfire organization to attend. Although camp director Randy Dropkin, known in camp as Wizard, tells me a $7.50 membership charge on top of the camp fee automatically makes you a member for a year. The fee for a week's camp is $110, and there are camperships available to help cover the cost. Add $80 to that if your child is into horses and wants to attend horse camp. City kids get a taste of nature and the outdoors in a rustic 56-acre setting. In the Campfire Girls and Boys program, youngsters in grades 2 through 12 have an opportunity to study backwoods environment firsthand on daily hikes. Exercise programs are conducted to help build healthy young bodies and work off some of that energy that kids this age are chock full of. But mostly they prefer to work off that bountiful energy in fun sports like inner tube relay races in the pool. A staff of 28 oversees up to 120 campers who arrive on Sunday and depart on Saturday with experiences and memories that will last for years, then be rekindled again when their own children go off to summer camp. Fun is fun, and there's no such thing here as a generation gap. Now that's what I call brightening up the little corner of the world where we live. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors, getting the rainbow at Camp Wolahi in the Cuyamacas. A brand new ice skating facility that just opened last April is drawing the attention of serious skaters in Southern California. The Ice Castle in Blue Jay on Lake Arrowhead in the San Bernardino Mountains is a training headquarters for young athletes who are 1984 Olympic hopefuls, and some with sights even farther over the horizon. Just a week or so ago, skaters of all ages were practicing for the largest competition this summer in Southern California, the Rim of the World Open Championships. Here we see former Ice Follies husband and wife team, Erica and Larry Seal, working on the world's only 360-degree overhead harness rack that Larry invented, incidentally. It allows triple jumps and other practice, decreasing the chance of injury tremendously, and helps to increase the skater's confidence. Here's Ice Castle manager Eddie Shipstad Jr. of the famous Ice Follies family.
The gold medal from the 1983 National Sports Festival. Mark Cockrell was the champion of that competition this year. He's working here with us at Blue Jay Ice Castle. He's going into a triple toe loop. Landed it.
Of course, the ice castle is open also to general skating all year round, and friendly help and instruction is available to novices, no matter what your level of ability might be.
Well, I'm not quite ready for a triple spin yet, but I'm working on it. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Blue Jay Ice Castle in Lake Arrowhead. Oh, thank you.
I know walking is good exercise. No question, it definitely promotes better health. But once in a while, on a hot, humid day, it's good not to have to walk. Sunshine Pedi-Cabs are kind of a neat alternative when the old feet give out and it's just too far back to the air-conditioned car. Besides, it's a great way to see the sights in Balboa Park, especially if you're from out of town. Your driver, or peddler, gives you a running narration of all the highlights along the way. My driver is Lauren Conley, and she's terrific at her job. She's just one of several energetic and enthusiastic young people who lease these Pedi-Cabs for $15 per shift and in turn charge passengers $1 for 2 people for a 5-minute ride. With tips, Lauren sometimes makes as much as $80 a day. That's a lot of peddling, friend, but she likes it. It's good exercise for her, lots of fresh air, and she says she meets tons of interesting people. I'll bet after hours of pedaling in the heat and humidity, it seems like tons too, but she's a good sport. Sunshine Pedi-Cabs also operate in Old Town, Seaport Village, Mission Bay, La Jolla, and the Zoo, and on special nights at Starlight, the Symphony Concerts, and Old Globe Theater to take people to and from their cars. You won't have any trouble spotting the pedestrian-beating Pedi-Cabs pedaled by perky people at any of the locations I mentioned. It's cool and it's fun.
It's a lot of fun riding along here leisurely on a beautiful day, seeing familiar sights from a slightly different angle. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors, riding along in a Sunshine Pedi-Cab in Balboa Park.
This is not an unusual scene in Southern California. Swimmers on floats lounging on placid waters, but watch. This is Raging Waters, an aquatic recreation park with a wave machine that produces up to 5-foot swells in a matter of only 4 seconds. And on hot, humid days like we've been having lately, this is fun. Raging Waters is just east of Pasadena near Pudding Stone Dam. After a $2 parking fee, you can have all kinds of water fun all day for $8.50 for adults, $7 if you're from 4 to 11 years old, and after 5 p.m. it's just $5 for everybody. They're open till 10 p.m. every night. Kiddos under 4 are free with a paying adult, and there's a special area just for them with a tube raft stream and croaking frogs that squirt water on the little squirts. There's even a waterfall that adults can enjoy too, as long as they're accompanied by a child. But the real whiz-bangers here at Raging Waters are the 2 big water slides, 5 stories high, and I mean you come flying down these babies. They're so steep, some people actually become airborne. It's a fantastic place, but I'd suggest going up on a weekday if you can. It's a lot less crowded.
I could be at Mission Bay or Pacific Beach, but I happen to be at a totally man-made lake. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California. From Raging Waters in San Dimas.
Next door to the Star of India at the Embarcadero is the second of 3 ships in San Diego Maritime Museum, the ferryboat Berkeley. As curator Dave Brierly and I looked at the models of other California ferry boats, he explained that the Berkeley played a huge part in the evacuation of San Francisco following the disastrous earthquake and fire of 1906. A fantastic 9-foot model of the battleship Missouri is part of a display showing the Navy's influence in San Diego over the years. It even has tiny models representing the signing of the peace treaty aboard that ended World War II. Upstairs where the passengers sat is a huge room where private and group parties can be held. The donations for using the Berkeley for such parties go to helping maintain the 3 ships in the museum, and they receive no public tax support. Down in the engine room, I met the executive director, Captain Ed Fredericks. The huge triple expansion steam engine that once powered this 2,000-ton ferry boat is still in operating condition, and Captain Fredericks proves it. The Berkeley, the Medea, and the Star of India are open to the public daily from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Isn't it nice that there are people foresighted enough to protect the past for those coming along in the future? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the old ferry boat Berkeley, part of the San Diego Maritime Museum on the Embarcadero.
Autumn in Southern California. Bright blue skies, big white puffy clouds over the mountains, and in the valleys below, vineyards yield a bountiful harvest of grapes that will go to the making of wine. The Temecula Valley, just north of the San Diego County line, is fast becoming a recognized growing area for fine California wine grapes. There are 7 small wineries in this fertile valley. Take a day of your time and you can probably visit all 7. It's worth your while. We're at the Mount Palomar Winery, where harvesting and crushing go on through the month of October. Each of these gondolas holds close to 4,000 pounds of grapes, but modern methods have improved on old-fashioned ways of making wine that go back to Bible times. Winemaker Joe Chirpin remembers as a boy stomping grapes with his feet. Today, this Vaseline press from France does it much more efficiently. Mount Palomar Winery grows 9 varieties of the very finest wine grapes and produces about 35,000 gallons of wine each year, including their silver medal-winning Chenin Blanc that is fermented in these stainless steel tanks. Red wines are usually allowed to age in wooden casks and barrels. The tasting room and gift shop are open almost every day of the year. Winery tours are given weekday afternoons at 1:30 and 3:30, weekends at 11:30, 1:30, and 3:30.
A little bread and cheese, a little wine, how pleasant can you get? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Mount Palomar Winery near Temecula. I know it might be a little early to do your Christmas shopping, but every year about this time I like to make up a little hint list, just in case somebody asks me what I want for Christmas. This year I've been looking at one of those steel drivers like the pros use, a Pittsburgh persimmon they call it, and when Singing Hills pro Tom Addis said, "Why not try it?" I couldn't resist. And what better spot than the 4th hole of Singing Hills Willow Glen course? Now this is real California outdoors. If Golf Digest had a centerfold, this beautiful layout would have to be Miss October. After that fine drive of Tom's, let's see what the Pittsburgh persimmon will do. Feels good. Not too bad. Now, let's see how the pros come toward the green. Beautiful shot, Tom. I love to get out onto our county golf courses in this great fall weather after the summer crowds have gone home and before the snowbirds get here. But it's going to take some putt to equal the pro today. Okay, jerk it, Tom, because this baby's going in. I'll tell you that right now. All right! If the putter works as well as that Pittsburgh persimmon every time, I'll improve the game. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Singing Hills Golf Club. It's not too unusual to see some pretty strange creatures hanging around our beach areas from time to time, but a Chinese dragon is not something you stumble across every day. San Diego has been chosen as the only city in the United States where a Dragonboat Race has ever been held. So you'll be seeing up to 14 teams practicing like crazy on Mission Bay in the next few weeks. 3 specially designed fiberglass dragon boats were built in and presented as a gift from the city of Singapore to the city of San Diego. The boats measure 39 feet in length, and when the full contingent is aboard, the team includes 22 paddlers, a steersman, and a drummer. The Dragon Boat Festival is held in the Far East on the 5th day of the 5th month of the Chinese lunar calendar. It's one of the Orient's most colorful and exciting traditional celebrations. Its origins go back many, many centuries to China. San Diego's Dragon Boat Race is sponsored by the Pacific Area Travel Association and will be held on Mission Bay October 30th. The top team of 24 persons will get an all-expense-paid trip to Singapore in June to compete in the international dragon boat races. So everyone is practicing real hard. Timing is everything. Okay, paddles in, stroke. Come on, you guys. What the heck? Well, this takes practice, too. You know, for 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors with the Dragon Boat Racers on Mission Bay.
All right.
In the next 4 or 5 weeks, I'm going to be taking you to several interesting places in the state of Arizona. Here's one place a lot of Californians like to visit, the former copper mining town of Jerome.
At one time, the population was over 15,000, the 5th largest city in Arizona, mostly miners of gold, silver, and copper. This huge open-pit copper mine, known as the Glory Hole, yielded over $1 billion worth of ore, mainly between 1918 and 1940. When the ore played out, most people left town, but some have stayed on, and Jerome has gotten a second breath. An influx of tourists now browse main streets, art galleries, pottery, jewelry, rock and mineral, and antique stores. Back in the old days, before Arizona became a state, when those miners misbehaved, they might have ended up here, at the territorial prison in Yuma. I'll take you here, too, on our upcoming visits to neighboring Arizona, and to the Red Rock country around Sedona, and to beautiful Lake Powell with its crystal blue waters and canyons of sheer cliffs, and the spectacular Rainbow Natural Bridge. And speaking of bridges, London Bridge at Lake Havasu is on our itinerary also.
So I hope you'll join me for our next series on Arizona. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Jerome, Arizona.
The territorial prison in Yuma is an interesting place to visit, but you probably wouldn't want to live there. It's now a state historic park, and its director, John Beck. John volunteered to show me around and started by telling me the prison celebrated its centennial in 1976 and ceased operation in 1909, 3 years before Arizona became the 48th state. Strap iron doors closed off tiny rooms in the main cell block where prisoners slept in tiered bunks and had crude toilet facilities. Some of the more corrigible prisoners slept in leg irons chained to large rings in the floor. During its 33-year history, the territorial prison had a total of 3,069 inmates, not all at once, of course. Crimes ranged from murder to stagecoach robbery, polygamy to prize fighting, which was illegal then, and from obstructing the railroad to selling liquor to Indians. Tough characters in those days, and they lived here in tough conditions. It gets hot over here in Yuma in summer. Solitary confinement was a cave in which was built an iron cage with a strap iron floor. Now, how'd you like to sleep on that? From a vent hole in the top of the cave, it's been told that rattlesnakes were sometimes dropped on the inmates just for a little Saturday night sport. Some fun, huh? When convicts were checked in, they were shaved, issued stripes, and a photograph was taken, employing the clever use of a mirror that each prisoner held on his shoulder.
And isn't it neat that they could save film when the prisoners were booked in by taking only one shot, a frontal and a profile? For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the Arizona Territorial Prison in Yuma.
What is this famous arched bridge that spent so many cool, gray, misty mornings stretched over the Thames in London doing here in the clear, warm Arizona desert air of Lake Havasu? Well, it's a long story. I'll start it, but you may have to go over there to finish it. If you do, you'll see this quaint English village beside the bridge with a distinctive London air about it. Any of the shopkeepers will tell you that in 1962, chainsaw king Robert McCullough bought this bridge from the City of London after they decided to tear it down for a little less than $2.5 million. It was disassembled over there, stone by stone, shipped on freighters to Long Beach, then trucked over here to this site on the Colorado River. It was reassembled using a unique numbering system, some of which still remain on the granite stones. It was opened as a tourist attraction in October of 1971. London Bridge has become Arizona's second most visited site next to the Grand Canyon. But Lake Havasu is more than London Bridge. 45 miles long, it offers a water wonderland for boating, skiing, fishing, swimming all year round. Several campgrounds offer facilities that let families enjoy fun on the beach, besides tennis and golf. It's become a popular spot with Californians. If camping isn't your thing, luxurious hotels offer reasonable rates that encourage visitors to bring the kids. And there are plenty of fine restaurants. Many of them have that British touch, being this close to old London Bridge. They even have London phone booths here.
Hold on just a second, will you? I gotta hurry. This is a long-distance call. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from London Bridge at Lake Havasu, Arizona.
The area around Sedona is known as Red Rocks country. It's easy to understand why. Wind, rain, and water have carved unusual formations in the red sandstone cliffs that rim this little town. Colorful names are given to these formations like Giant's Thumb, Courthouse Rock, the Coffee Pot, Sugarloaf, and Cathedral Rocks. Sedona has recently become a retirement center, but has long been an artist's colony. Red Rocks country is a photographer's paradise, and California Outdoors photographer Art Farian captures it for you. Placed like a jewel below a 1,000-foot red rock wall is the Chapel of the Holy Cross. If you're passing through Sedona, you really should see it. It combines the artistic efforts of sculptor Marguerite Bruswig Staud and architect Lloyd Wright, son of the grand old man. It was completed in 1956 and was dedicated not only as a monument to faith, but a spiritual fortress so charged with God that it spurs man's spirit Godward, to quote Mrs. Staud. Sedona is also the gateway to Oak Creek Canyon. Spring-fed waters make this a favorite playground all year round. In the summertime, you'll find lots of people in this old swimming hole enjoying Slide Rock. But this time of year, that water's a little too cold for my young buddy and me. This is definitely a Four Seasons area, and now, approaching winter, the colors are just magnificent as you drive up the canyon toward Flagstaff, 25 miles away. It won't be long now. There'll be snow in this canyon and all the leaves will have dropped off, but now they're at the top of their beauty. It'll be too cold for a short-sleeved shirt, too. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Oak Creek Canyon, Arizona. From a modern jetliner 6 miles up over northern Arizona, Lake Powell looks like a desert canyon filled with water. And it is. When Glen Canyon Dam was built in 1964, almost inaccessible canyons were flooded and formed a lake 186 miles from tip to tip with a shoreline longer than the entire west coast of the United States. I'm on a tour boat that leaves Del Webb's Wauweep Lodge and Marina for half-day and full-day cruises all year round. The half-day of eye-filling beauty runs $34.50 for adults, $26 for children. But take the full day. It'll cost you $44.50 for adults, $33.50 for children, and includes a box lunch picnic, but it's worth every penny. Houseboats are a popular form of recreation on Lake Powell. They sleep from 4 to 10 persons and can be rented from one of 4 marinas on the lake. By the way, the fishing is fantastic here. But sightseeing is my game, and the sight of seeing these sheer canyon walls of red Navajo sandstone is absolutely breathtaking. California Outdoors photographer Art Farian gives you some unbelievable shots as skipper Lee Beller skillfully squeezes us into narrow gorges. Oh boy, talk about a thrilling boat ride. I mean to tell you, this full-day exploring cruise on Lake Powell is something else. But the world-class Tour de Gras is this spectacular sight, Rainbow Natural Bridge. No white man's eyes ever fell on this natural wonder until 1909. Vaulting the length of a football field across a small canyon, it arches 309 feet above a tiny inlet of water.
I'll tell you, I've seen some mighty beautiful and spectacular sights in this old world, but this has to rank among the top 3. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Rainbow Bridge at Lake Powell.
If you have visitors coming over the holidays and you've done the zoo, SeaWorld, and Tijuana, here's something new they might enjoy, and you'll enjoy it too. The sailing ship Invader boards at Broadway Pier and cruises San Diego Bay 3 times every day at 10 a.m., 1 and 3 p.m., with an after-dark dinner cruise at 7 p.m. As we get under sail, Captain James Barger lets me take a turn at the wheel of this well-appointed classic schooner. The Invader was built in Boston in 1905 and has had quite a history. In 1932, Douglas Fairbanks filmed the movie Mr. Robinson Crusoe aboard her. It's 151 feet from stem to stern. The pine masts point 90 feet skyward above the deck. She's truly a tall, graceful lady who sailed the 7 seas, won several races, and still holds records unbroken to this day. The daytime sailings aboard the Invader are $6.50 for adults, half price for children under 12. 1 soft drink or cocktail is included, and there are coats for chilly days. On the later cruise, the dinner is served to you on the deck or at huge tables in 2 comfortable cabins below. The cost is $29.50 for adults. That includes a choice of 2 entrees and all your cocktails. Here again, children half price. There's also live entertainment aboard for dinner cruises and dancing if you like. For years, as flagship of Windjammer Cruises in Hawaii, she carried over 2 million passengers. Now the Invader is home ported in San Diego, and all the great sights of our harbor can be seen from her deck, including some gorgeous winter sunsets. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from aboard the Invader on San Diego Bay. I know, there are 1,000 things you have to get done before Christmas, but sometimes we forget to stop and smell the poinsettias. Here's an idea you might keep in mind to help you and your family enjoy the holiday season more. Do you know what these people are doing? They're mounting a specially built platform to become a living Christmas tree. Under the direction of John Davis, 46 members of the First Baptist Church of San Diego will present Christmas music at University Town Center. I'll show you the times and dates on your screen. The same sort of singing Christmas tree will be presented at Seaport Village by the choir of Del Cerro Baptist Church. Here are their times and dates. You have a Merry Christmas, but the season leading up to that joyous day will be so filled with the sights and sounds and smells that we hope you enjoy the entire season. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors with the living Christmas tree at University Town Center. Santa Claus will soon be making a lot of little boys happy with toy vehicles that will crawl over rough terrain. But if you're a bigger boy and can afford more expensive toys, consider this. This is a Mercedes-Benz Unimog 4x4 truck. It's considered by many to be the best truck in the world today. Nigel Kaiser and his friend Lisa Morley invited me along for a demonstration ride in some of our rough backcountry. Originally, these all-terrain trucks were used by NATO forces in Germany and cost $65,000. Today, Nigel imports them with an average of 18,000 miles on them and sells them for $7,500. San Diego County probably offers as many backcountry trails for off-roaders as any part of the country. So much of this beautiful California outdoors can only be seen off the main roads. And the Unimog is ideal for camping, hunting, fishing, cross-country travel, and snow play. Besides, as a load carrier, it can haul up to 2 tons. With the straight axles front and rear turning in synchronization, an 18-inch axle clearance, and a dial indicator on the steering column for wheel direction, Nigel is able to maneuver a 73% grade with no trouble at all. Now that's what I call some kind of fun. I've heard it said that the difference between a man and a boy is the price of his toys, and this is a man's toy. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the rough country. If Christmas just isn't Christmas unless Jack Frost is nipping at your nose, then head for the mountains. Even at midday, the temperatures are invigorating to say the least, and at night, Mike Ambrose has been telling us it's down into the 20s. It's a pleasant drive up into the Laguna Mountains. Take the kids along, they'll enjoy it. And there are a lot of little roads you can take off the main roads and drive through the tall pines. But don't get the idea you can get your Christmas tree up here. This is the Cleveland National Forest, and there are signs warning against that. I found a neat thing to do up here, though. Look for mistletoe. The forest ranger told me I could gather some, maybe a grocery bag full for my own use, but if I planned to go commercial and gather it for sale, then I'd need a $5 permit. Mistletoe is a parasite that grows on oak trees, cottonwoods, sycamores, but not on the pines. Up here at the higher elevations, the black oaks have lost their leaves, and the clumps of green mistletoe are easy to see. But unless you have a limb saw or a twig cutter, take along an agile little boy who likes to climb trees. The other alternative is to find mistletoe growing on shorter trees or lower branches. Then it's easier to reach, although it might be a little more picked over. The better bunches are up on the higher branches.
Now, let's see if the magic of the mistletoe really works and I get my Christmas kiss. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from under the mistletoe. Thanks a lot. Right here in the middle of this beautiful golf course is what looks like Fort Apache, but it's really one of the obstacles for the equestrian event of the 1984 Olympics to be held here at Fairbanks Ranch.
Fairbanks Ranch is a development of Watt Industries. Their vice president and director of sales and marketing, Steve Guymas, points out to me the spot where famous Hollywood star Douglas Fairbanks Sr. was going to build his dream home and call it Rancho Zorro after one of his most popular movies. But it was built only recently, long after his death. It's said that Fairbanks searched all over the state before settling on 3,000 acres here in San Diego County, just east of Del Mar. One of two lakes on the property provided irrigation water for 24,000 orange trees. Today, it's a recreational area for residents of this exclusive community. The clubhouse sits right on the shoreline. Beautiful rustic areas surround the lake in the center of the development, and the old tile-roofed pump house has become a handsome library. The original manager's house is where H.R. Halderman lives now. The 1920s and 30s were the first golden age of Hollywood, and what could have been more appropriate than the swashbuckling screen hero falling in love and marrying America's sweetheart, Mary Pickford? And that's just what happened. But alas, the fairy tale romance that was made in heaven, that was expected to be played out here in this beautiful setting, went up in a wisp of smoke dreams.
And like a little boy writing in wet cement, the words said, Doug loves Mary. But when the marriage dissolved, Fairbanks had that part cemented over. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Fairbanks Ranch in North County.
Isn't it fun to recall memories of your childhood occasionally? That's what I did the other day when I joined Bonnie Berger's class of 3-year-olds from Poway Community Nursery School for an old-fashioned hayride at Poway Stables.
Donald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on next farm he had a cow.
The sweet smell of hay and the location at Highway 67 and Poway Road was like being 1,000 miles from any city. Poway Stables is owned by Paul Miner and his wife Kathy. Although they have complete working ranch facilities, the focus of Poway Stables is on recreation. There are horse rentals for trail rides on the 300 acres, and besides children's and adults' hay rides, you'll find facilities for picnics and barbecues, pony rides, and anything country, anything western, anything with animals. They'll even furnish a caller for a square dance, or cowboys for a simulated gunfight for a movie or TV show. And as for that sweet-smelling hay, it's recycled by the Nubian goats on the ranch that are for petting and for serious 4-H projects.
Well, we've got horses for all sizes out here. The kids love to ride Little Ribbons, the pony. And when the Charger team comes out, they'd probably prefer Dick, the Belgian draft horse. Stands over 6 feet. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Poway Stables. Don't eat the microphone, Dick.
Santee Lakes is a water reclamation project that has long passed the experimental stage. Operated by the Padre Dam Municipal Water District, they offer 190 acres of water and surrounding parkland for recreation and fun. 1 million gallons of treated water a day flows by gravity from the highest to the lowest of the 7 lakes. On the shoreline are 51 full hookup campsites with more on the way, plus 120 dry sites. For full hookup, the rates run $10 per night or $8.50 per night on a 30-day basis. These prices are good the year round. For day use of the park areas, the rates run from 50 cents to $1.50 per vehicle. There are plenty of picnic tables, and it's a great place to bring the children for a couple of hours of fun. There are several sets of swings and other play equipment to siphon off some of that youthful energy. More likely it's Mom's energy that gets siphoned off. Although fishing piers are in the planning stage and will soon be built, now fishing is only from the banks, no boat fishing. You must have a California fishing license plus a lake fishing permit that runs $2.50 per day for adults, half that for children 10 to 15 and under 10 free. The lakes are stocked with bluegill, bass, and catfish. And on February 16th, they'll get their first load of trout since 1977. After that, trout will be stocked weekly. The only boats allowed on the lakes can be rented and include canoes, rowboats, and these dandy little pedal boats, good for siphoning off energy too. But for just a relaxing day in pleasant surroundings, it's hard to beat this spot just 18 miles from downtown San Diego.
Not a bad way to spend a leisurely afternoon. Plenty of sunshine, plenty of friends. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Santee Lakes.
The view of Alcatraz from the streets of San Francisco as a peaceful island in the bay belies the echo of its infamous past when it served as a federal penitentiary from 1934 to 1963. Today, the red and white fleet offers visitors a tour of the Rock. Boats leave every 45 minutes from Pier 41 near Fisherman's Wharf. Your guide will be a National Park Service ranger, and the 2-hour walking tour is only $3.50 for adults, including the boat ride. Ranger Rex Norman took our California Outdoors camera on a typical tour so you could see a bit of what prison life was like for the most dangerous convicts of those days, men too hard to handle in other prisons. Each man had his own 5 by 9 foot cell. They held such notorious criminals as Scarface Al Capone, Machine Gun Kelly, one of Ma Barker's sons and his gangmate Alvin Karpis, and Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz, who in spite of Hollywood fiction never kept a bird on this island. Although the Rock was a legendary escape-proof facility, 39 prisoners tried it over the 29 years. Only 5 are listed as having succeeded, and they may have died in the icy waters of San Francisco Bay. Nobody knows for sure. Only hot showers were allowed, so inmates with escape on their minds could not condition their bodies to cold water. Those who were caught got solitary confinement, and that could be dark and unpleasant. Today, visitors see the dining hall where trouble was most likely to brew since prisoners mingled with one another. Tear gas canisters near the ceiling discouraged any sort of riot, and there never was one here in the gas chamber, as the cons called it. The exercise yard is another place where prisoners had contact with one another. Here's where tough guys like Bogart and Robinson, Cagney and Raft hatched their escape plans and the demise of fellow inmates.
If you're in the San Francisco area, you won't want to miss a tour of the Rock. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Alcatraz in San Francisco Bay.
One of the most colorful and familiar sights on the streets of San Francisco has been the cable cars. But since September of 1982, the jaunty little jitneys have been absent. The last operating cable car system in the world was over a century old and badly needed overhauling, and that's just what it's getting. The cable driving machinery, the tracking, the channelways under the streets are all being replaced. And the fleet of 42 cable cars themselves are being refurbished without making any visible changes that would alter their charming character. Some of these famous ladies who are getting up in years will get entirely new wood and steel undercarriages, like this Powell and Hyde car. Foreman Hank Bemmer directs the master carpenters and craftsmen in this gigantic chore that's just a little ahead of schedule. The $58 million project has been timed to span 2 winters in order to affect only one summer tourist season. So the target date of June 1st of this year to get the cars back on track will probably be met. The first threat to San Francisco's cable cars came in 1947 when they were thought to be antiquated. Then, and several times since, citizens have rallied to save the cable cars. The most recent resulted in this complete overhaul. But in spite of modern innovations in several areas, the braking system will remain as it has for over 100 years. Track brakes made of wood are the best thing they've found for holding a cable car full of passengers stopped on a steep hill. They go through at least 2 sets a week. When the warm spring breezes blow, these jaunty little cable cars will be rolling once again over the streets of San Francisco. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Cable Car Country. Only 35 miles long and just over an hour's drive north of San Francisco, the Napa Valley is among the prime regions of the world for growing fine wine grapes. Come on along as I visit just a few of the over 100 wineries in this fertile little valley. The Robert Mondavi Winery at Oakville has a unique style of architecture that pays tribute to the role Franciscan missions had in developing California as a major wine district. Robert Mondavi, the man, has been a prime innovator and pioneer in the development of bringing California wines into a world-class category. Staff member Glenn Martin exhibits a sample of Mondavi's excellent Fumé Blanc. This winery features one of the most extensive tours and tastings in the Napa Valley. One of the most interesting stops is Sterling Vineyards at the northern end of the valley. For $3.50, an aerial tramway takes you to the top of a craggy little hill. There, a winery, not unlike a church left by the Crusaders on one of the Greek Isles, can be visited. It also features one of the most extensive gift shops hereabouts, and guess what? The winery is owned by Coca-Cola. Is this where the TV show Falcon Crest originates? Well, it could be, but it isn't. It's the magnificent Rhine House of Beringer Vineyards at St. Helena. As we enjoy some of their magnificent Cabernet Sauvignon in the strictly German Hospitality and Tasting Center, manager Bob Yates tells me Beringer is the oldest continuously operating winery in the Napa Valley. Tunnels that date back to 1876 are the aging cellars for oaken casks of Beringer Chardonnay. Cobwebby bottles give a feeling of what most of us think a wine aging cellar should look like. But is there a real Falcon Crest? Yes, it's also here at St. Helena. It's actually called Spring Mountain Vineyards, and it was purchased by this man, Michael Robbins, in 1974. Looking out of their brand new tasting room, you see the elegant Victorian house built in 1885 that serves as Michael Robbins' home and is used by the TV show for location shots 3 or 4 times each season.
For those of you who asked, yes, there really is a Falcon Crest. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from the wine country of Napa Valley.
When you see it from the air, it could be a whole gingerbread village tucked away in the German Alps. When Sarah Winchester bought it in the late 1800s, it was an 18-room house. Then she began to build on in all directions until, like Topsy, it grew to 160 rooms sprawled over 6 acres in San Jose. Today, visitors can see the results of an ongoing restoration project to preserve and spruce up what some experts call an architectural monstrosity. But as Public Relations Director Shozo Kagashima explains, as he shows me some of the beauty and some of the oddities, Sarah Winchester was her own architect, and perhaps her ambition excelled her skills as a designer. She was heir to $20 million of the Winchester rifle fortune, and some people say she was afraid of the spirits of all those who had been killed by the gun that won the West. Always a student of the occult, a spiritualistic medium had convinced Widow Winchester that as long as she kept building, the ghosts would let her alone. So for 38 years, the hammers kept pounding, night and day, Sundays and holidays, constructing this house of mystery. Was she trying to confuse the ghosts by building doors that went nowhere except into a blank wall? Did she think the spooks could not escape their own entrapment when they walked up stairs that ended at the ceiling? Did the myriads of cutbacks in the stairs with only 3-inch risers help her escape the spirits that haunted her? Or was it simply easier for a woman plagued by arthritis to walk those narrow passageways? Would tall ghosts bump their heads on a short doorway that allowed a diminutive lady only 4 feet 10 to pass easily? These are just a few of the mysteries. Perhaps you can answer some of them when you visit this unique Victorian landmark. Daily guided tours range from $4.95 for children to $7.95 for adults.
Perhaps it was this 1860 Winchester rifle that caused the lady's idiosyncrasies that resulted in the beautiful house you just saw. For 10 News, this is Bob Mills reporting California Outdoors from Winchester House in San Jose.